Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, we featured the highest ranking Palkia team from Salt Lake City Regionals built by a player called Alex, who I've linked down in the description below. He was able to finish in the top 4 of Salt Lake City Regionals with this exact team, so we'll be playing a couple more matches with it today. Rental and paste are also down in the description below if you want to try it out yourselves. Thanks so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, just a completely random but fun one. If you could make a spin-off game for Pokemon, what would it be and what would you do? For me, I really like auto brawlers, like Teamfight Tactics, and so I would love to see like a Pokemon auto brawler, just because that genre I heavily enjoy. But yeah, let me know yours down in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright, we've got Zacian and Dialga for the first one here, with Urshifu, Rillaboom, Grimm, and Landorus. So, fitting that Palkia gets to go up against Dialga. I unfortunately think that Dialga is a really tough matchup for this team. Just because of its ability to max Wormwind Palkia and max Quake Zacian. I think this is actually just Marco Fierro's Dialga Zacian, which if I remember correctly was Focus Sash Grimm with Fake Tears, Fake Out, Sucker Punch. And it was Bandit Urshifu, Life Orb Dialga. So I think maybe going for Trick Room is an okay approach in this one, right? Like, I could go Indeedee Porygon, get Trick Room up, and then Palkia Zacian under Trick Room. The alternative is Amoonguss, because Spore is really valuable here. But if I lead Porygon and Amoonguss, I do risk some shenanigans with Grimm and Dialga, whereas with this, I can just follow me into Trick Room turn 1, and then just Eerie Impulse Dialga turn 2. So, yeah. Dialga Zacian is definitely a kind of core that I think has a lot of potential, but we haven't really seen too many like super strong teams built around it so far. But I think the team I'm going up against is one of the better variants of it that I've seen, and I actually tested it a bunch. Okay, they go with Urshifu and Dialga. Normally that's scary, but because I have the Focus Sash here on Indeedee, it saves us. Right, so like turn 1, it's a very safe follow me into Trick Room, bring in Palkia. Turn 2, we can just go for Max Geyser under Urshifu, Eerie Impulse onto Dialga. So that's kind of the map I've laid out for me so far. Maybe I'll deviate from it based off their play, but I think for now, this is the exact value of having Focus Sash on Indeedee. I guess if I let Amoonguss, it would have been the same outcome, but Indeedee just gives me more insurance against Grimm plus Dialga as a lead. So, yeah, I mean, Indeedee Porygon, like, we've used a lot throughout the various series, and this is just one of the most consistent leads that you can have to set up Trick Room, especially with Sash on Indeedee, because it's like you set up the Psychic Terrains and no Fake Outs, or Prankster Taunts, for example. You have Focus Sash, and so it's really difficult to knock out Indeedee, you know, using just one attack with one Pokemon. I like their play to not Dynamax Dialga here. I think that's smart. Okay, so there's Wicked Blow. Yep. Makes me wonder, though, who they are going to Dynamax in this game, given that... Flash Cannon, okay. Yeah, works for me. Now we get Palkia in for free. Okay. I wonder if Life Orb Max Quake KOs Urshifu with no bulk. I actually don't know that damage calc. Because if it does, then the best play is to Quake here. Like, let's think about what they're going to have in the back, right? Zacian's obviously one of them. Okay, Palkia comes out. I could see Urshifu in the back because that's a pretty good switch into Geysers. I don't want to take a Banded Wicked Blow here. I guess that's not too much of an issue, actually, even if I do take one, because I'm going to Eerie Impulse Dialga here. I guess they could have Landorus as a switch in. So, like, I don't have a move that covers for Zacian, Rillaboom, and Landorus as a switch-in other than Geyser. Like, I could just max Geyser here into Urshifu and then just Eerie Impulse, which is what I was saying earlier, so I think I'll go for that. I would hate for Urshifu to switch out into Landorus. Okay, Dialga actually switches out into Landorus. Okay, so they did switch in Landorus, but in the opposite way. That's fine then. Because the thing is, now we accelerate the battle so much, right? Like, I just one-shot everything right now, and the opposing team unfortunately is just like not very strong under Trick Room, so normally, you know, doesn't look amazing to just lose a Pokemon, But in this case, like, trading Indeedee for Trick Room is actually so valuable here because my opponent's team is so hyper offensive that there's very little they can do once Trick Room goes up. Unless this is like another variant of the team, but I'm pretty sure the original one had banded on had choice band on the Urshifu. So like this play was always really safe, right? It covered for basically everything. I thought about max quaking the Urshifu slot, but with Eerie Impulse, I don't really need the special defense boost anyway, so that should just be a one-hit KO. And now the thing is, you're going to have Zacian and Dialga in the back, right? And so, like, if you bring in Dialga, Geyser into a Landorus slot is always safe. If you bring in Zacian, I could Geyser either, but then I guess there's the mind game of do you switch out? But then I could just go for a max Quake instead and get a special defense boost, protecting me from Dialga. I think some players would have been baited in Dynamaxing Dialga turn 1, so it was a smart play by my opponent to not go for that. So, to their credit, that's a really nice play. I don't think the Dialga on that team has Trick Room either. So one play here is to Quake into Dialga, but because I've got Eerie Impulse, I'm honestly down to just Geyser into Landorus and then just Eerie Impulse into Dialga. You could Dynamax Landorus and like max guard it. That's probably the worst thing for me to run into right now, but it's looking pretty strong for us at the moment, mainly because like you just don't have a solid max option. The thing is, I am playing very safely right now. It worked out last turn. I don't know, Quaking into Dialga would have been tempting here, but I'm fine just Geysering Landorus in this position. Yeah, they are going to protect. Okay, that's fine. This is their one way of getting back in the game, especially if they, like a crit max Wormwind here on Palkia would be really scary. It's still going to do a ton of damage even at -2, which is also scary, but... Oh, you're faster than me under Trick Room. Huh. Interesting. Okay. That's not something I talked about. I just assumed. I do remember that version of the team, it was like modest Dialga with like not a ton of speed investment, so I actually should have thought about that a little bit more. That's really interesting. Geyser and Rain almost just KOs Landorus. Okay, so given this, their Zacian in the endgame is actually a little bit scary. Oh, it's Berry Landorus? Interesting. Citrus Berry Landorus. You don't see that every day. How many turns of Trick Room do we have left? 2? So we can get another Eerie Impulse here into Dialga. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm honestly down to just Geyser Landorus here and then Eerie Impulse the Dialga. Dialga is essentially going to be useless damage-wise for my opponent in this endgame. Them being faster is actually a little bit awkward, though. Should have thought about that a little bit more. That's where then Max Quake would give me a lot of value because I would have gotten a special defense boost. And then I could just Geyser Landorus to KO it anyway. Oh, that's interesting. They switch Landorus out. Okay. I mean, I guess the question here is, does Dialga KO Palkia at -4 special attack from the range that it's at? It might. It might. Oh, they go for Steel Spike, though. Wow. I think what my opponent was probably reading was, you know, saying, hey, I should KO your Palkia anyway, so you should just protect it. But the reality is that in that position, I don't have that much incentive to protect or switch out Palkia, so I might as well just, you know, see if they can actually get the knockout, and if they go for the Wormwind onto it, so be it, right? But I think this play actually loses them the game, because now you just lose your Zacian for free, and that was their best late game offense. So, yeah, the Palkia Dialga war here was really interesting, but you could see just how much work Eerie Impulse Porygon 2 can put in, right? Because it's like, I can take these super strong Dynamax attacks from the special attackers and from the restricteds, and retaliate back and just lower their special attack immediately, making their life very, very difficult. Okay, so Dynamax ends on my end now. The other thing about Dialga is that it gets really weak once Dynamax ends. That's one of the other weaknesses of it. So I think one other thing my opponent was maybe reading into is my Palkia switching out into Zacian, right? And you don't want to just Wormwind into a Zacian and not get any damage off. So can definitely understand that. I'm down to go for... Because I have Zacian in the back and we know it's not Scarf on Landorus here, I'm actually down to just double up into it. Spatial Rend and Foul Play. Because Dialga is never going to win the game for my opponent barring like infinite critical hits. And they don't protect Landorus. Cool. I don't know if Foul Play gets the KO here, but just not. Okay, there's Max Wormwind, this time into Palkia, but Palkia's done his job. Like, of course I could switch it out here, but the thing is, there's nothing Landorus can do that allows it to win, because now Zacian just comes out and wins the game for me. So, Maybe I could have played that a little bit more optimally, because, like, I guess in my head I was just like, well, we'll see if Foul Play can get the knockout onto Landorus, but there's nothing Landorus can do really that scares me here. Right? Like, Swords Dance doesn't really concern me. I could have recovered with Porygon, but I think in this endgame, basically, we're always going to be in really good shape. And like I mentioned, I'm pretty sure that Dialga does not have Protect, so Sacred Sword into Foul Play on Landorus is just a guaranteed win for us right now. I guess the question is whether or not we think a critical hit here will KO Porygon. I guess there's a chance Dialga can survive as well. Okay. You know what then? I'm actually down to just go for Protect here and recover. Yeah. Dialga will take some more chip. Okay, yeah, they end up forfeiting. I think it was over there, but I just didn't want to make any, like, egregious misplays. And I knew that the Dialga on the opposing side doesn't have Trick Room, so, yeah. Either way, though, fun to get this Palkia versus Dialga war. And I was definitely caught off guard by them outspeeding us, but that's not super surprising because the Palkia on this team actually has a fair amount of speed investment. So just keep that in mind. Be a little bit careful when you're fighting Pokemon that are around Palkia's speed tier, because sometimes you might actually be slower under Trick Room. But that was a really fun one, so let's keep things going. Second game of the day here. And we have another Dialga team. What are the odds of that? Dialga, Kyogre, Urshifu, Amoonguss, Indeedee, Whimsicott. Man, Kyogre takes me back to like early VGC 2016. Very cool. So we get the Palkia versus Dialga wars today. These teams are really similar with the Amoonguss and the Indeedee. They have Whimsicott and Dialga, which is interesting because you could flex Tailwind or Trick Room. I'm not completely opposed to an Indeedee Palkia lead. I feel like Porygon with Eerie Impulse is just so valuable. The main thing I'm worried about is their Amoonguss with Spore, right? So I feel like I should probably be bringing Porygon, Amoonguss, Palkia, and Zacian, but I'm trying to figure out in what order. What's the scariest lead they can go with? Dialga plus Amoonguss is pretty scary, to be honest. Dialga plus Amoonguss. Yeah, that's actually a really big issue, I think. Shoot, how do I beat that? Oh, I don't see a great answer into it. Okay, Porygon, Amoonguss, Zacian, Palkia. So what I'm thinking with Porygon Amoonguss is I can turn one Protect Amoonguss, bait them into going for a Max Hailstorm onto it, and then Eerie Impulse Dialga. Then even if you have click Spore with your Amoonguss, it's not the end of the world for me because I've gotten your Dialga down to -2, implying then it can't KO my Amoonguss on turn 2 of the game, and then my Amoonguss can just Spore their Dialga. So there's also like a good chance they don't lead with it, right? But I just think that's the lead that I don't have a good answer for, so I need a game plan quickly. That is going to be... Yep. It always makes me happy when, you know, my opponents identify the best lead and I talk about the best lead and how I'm really worried about it. And so I have a game plan here, but even with it, it's still pretty scary. I just don't know what else I could have led against this. Maybe Indeedee plus Palkia, because I can, like, follow me Wormwind into Amoonguss and then Quake turn 2, but then they could just Trick Room, so, yeah. Like I said, my play here is to Eerie Impulse Dialga and Protect turn 1. I guess I could Trick Room as well, but... The problem here is if their Amoonguss just goes for a Rage Powder. But the reason why Rage Powder might be not amazing is because then if you went for Rage Powder over Spore, you would allow me to get Trick Room up and then I could Spore your Dialga under Trick Room. Safety Goggles Dialga would be very interesting here. Goggles often doesn't feel like a good enough item to, you know, use on your restricted mons just because, like, then you're often losing a lot of speed or damage. Right, whether it be like a Choice Scarf from Kyogre or a Life Orb or Expert Belt. Expert Belt's not really used very much, actually, but you get what I'm saying. Okay. Okay, they go for Wormwind, honestly fine by me, into Amoonguss. That also makes me think you don't have Max Hailstorm, which is very interesting if so. Okay. Yep, there's Life Orb. And we get Eerie Impulse. Very nice. The question here is whether or not I faint from another Max Wormwind. So let's quickly do the math based off how much that Wormwind did to us. I took a lot of damage there. 36, 55. So 55 times 4, 220. With Eerie Impulse, we should survive. My only fear is they actually still have Max Hailstorm. They could Quake me as well. So like, I'm thinking about switching, but in this position, I think we just stay in. Especially with the turn 1 Wormwind. I feel like if you had Hailstorm, you just would have gone for it there. So we'll just burn Eternal Sleep here, and then try to Spore into Dialga. Like, the goal basically is to stall out their early game Dynamax and then go from there. My problem is that my damage output into their Amoonguss is just really lacking. Okay, they switch into Kyogre, that's fine. Ooh, if you had Max Lightning on Dialga, that'd be a problem here too. Okay, they just Wormwind though, so we should survive this. Perfect. Okay, nice. So, the game plan worked out so far. Still a tricky position to be in, but I don't mind it as much. Right? Okay, we burn Eternal Sleep on Porygon's end here, and now I Spore Dialga. Perfect. I mean, the main thing here is that Kyogre is probably just gonna go for a Water Spout. So it's a question of whether or not I want to sacrifice either Pokemon right now, right? Like, I could switch Amoonguss out into Palkia. But I think here I'd rather get the safe switch into Palkia, so I'm down to just Eerie Impulse into Kyogre and then sacrifice Amoonguss here. Okay, they switch Dialga out, which makes sense. Maybe back out into Amoonguss. This is my problem. Like, I don't have good damage into their Amoonguss. And they've dealt with my Amoonguss sooner than I've dealt with theirs. Whew, that was a lot of damage on Porygon as well. It's not great. Okay. Porygon does manage to wake up and get the Eerie Impulse off, which is quite good for us here. Man, one of my questions here is basically, can I knock out the Amoonguss right now? Can I one-shot it with the Life Orb Max Wormwind? Because if I get hit by Spore on Palkia, then I'm just in a lot of trouble here, right? The other play I can make is hard switching Porygon into Zacian and just protecting this turn. I don't think I'm opposed to that, honestly. It's just risky if they Spore Porygon, but I feel like that's pretty unlikely. And if they go for it, kudos to them. The other play I could make then is Wormwind Foul Play into Amoonguss, but Foul Play does such little damage, especially since I'm dropping their attack, so that doesn't seem ideal. But basically, if I get this turn correctly, we are suddenly in the driver's seat, because then I have both of my offensive members out against Amoonguss, which is by far the biggest threat to me. So this is the pivotal turn of the game, in my opinion. If I get Spored onto Zacian, it's looking pretty rough. Although I still have my Dynamax, right? But the question is, can I get enough value out of it? Okay, good. They Spore into Palkia. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Okay. So with that, then, I'm willing to Behemoth Blade into Amoonguss, Dynamax, and Max Quake it. This gives me a special defense boost. I could also see Amoonguss protecting or switching out here. So, special defense boost really, really valuable right now in this game. Yeah, Dialga isn't really that scary right now. I mean, Roar of Time, I guess, is still a problem. Okay, they don't protect, or they don't switch out. They might be protecting. The thing is, I lose this game if they get a Spore onto either Palkia or Zacian, which is why I tried so hard to play around it. I guess my only concern now is, like, Amoonguss survives Behemoth Blade, has a Berry, and then has enough bulk to also live a Life Orb Max Quake from Palkia. I think more likely Amoonguss is going to protect here, but I guess we'll see. Yeah. That's fine, though. I mean, like, a free special defense boost is always valuable, right? And Dialga is not that scary at this moment. Once again, I'm faster than Dialga. Interesting. Okay. So the Dialgas we're going up against are not max speed. Fine by me. With the special defense boost now, it's like even if you Roar of Time me, you're really not that scary. Okay, they stay asleep. So now what? Behemoth Blade into Amoonguss again. Urshifu being their last one would make some sense. But I'm honestly down to just Blade Quake again. Okay, they don't go for Rage Powder. Like I said, we just can't let Spore go off, right? So even though the Protect Blaster was fairly obvious, what's Dialga really going to do to scare me right now in this position? Ooh, we actually KO Amoonguss from that range. I think that should win us the game then. This game was all about patience, though. Like, you know, I had to read into their lead, because I think if I let anything else, I would have been in so much trouble. I just don't see how else I can really beat that lead effectively. So, had to stall it out early, got the Spore off, and then the key turn was getting Zacian next to Palkia. But it was really scary, because my opponent clicked Spore in a Porygon slot there. I think I likely lose the game, actually, even with me having this late game Dynamax. I guess that would boil down to how quickly the Zacian could wake up. Like, if it only takes one turn of sleep, then it's honestly not too bad, but you never want to rely on that, right? Just interesting, we go up against two different Dialga teams today. I mean, Dialga, I think, is one of those restricted that still has not really fully been explored, and so it's exciting to see players now explore it a little bit more, right? Also, this game is not necessarily over if there's Scarf Ogre, but I think with me having one more turn of Dynamax, we should be in okay shape. I mean, I'm down to just play rough into Kyogre here. I really want to double up into something. I'm also at +2 special defense, which is good. I just don't want to attack into a Protect. Like, is it Scarf Ogre here? Could make sense. Okay. I'll just play rough Kyogre here, and then Warm Wind into Urshifu. Okay, we're faster. Cool. There's play rough. Doesn't get the one hit KO. I think it's fine though. Yeah, because like I'm gonna take an Origin Pulse here, no problem. Oh, they actually have Scald. Okay. Yeah, special defense boost, so nice here, and no burn, so that should seal the game up for us. Cool. Burn there would have been pretty scary, but that's why I was valuing getting these special defense boosts via Max Quake earlier, and they're not Sash on Urshifu either. I guess their team does have a lot of potential Sash users, though, right? Like Whimsicott, like Sash, Urshifu like Sash, Indeedee like Sash. Focus, like, guessing where the Focus Sash is in this format is a really interesting kind of dynamic, because, like, there's so many good Pokemon that want to use it. Amoonguss could use Sash as well, so, yeah. Now we can just Sacred Sword and Earth Power here. So Palkia's 2-0 in the Palkia versus Dialga war so far today, which is fun. But overall, yeah, I think us being faster against both was definitely interesting. Actually, I guess I should just because like I'm so used to playing with Palkia that's not very fast, but like, can Dialga, even if they're max speed, outspeed this Palkia EV spread? I want to double check that. Okay, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't completely messing up my speed tiers, but I was correct in thinking that timid max speed Dialga would outspeed this Palkia EV spread. So yeah, but you know, a lot of Dialgas are running like modest and not that much speed investment. So Palkia outspeeding isn't actually super surprising, because basically if you're not running max speed Dialga, Palkia will outspeed you. So I shouldn't be as surprised about that, but yeah, I'm just used to playing with slower Palkia, hence the surprise. Plus I have run into a fair amount of timid max speed Dialgas, but yeah. Anyway, let's talk about this one. This is so interesting. It feels like a VGC 2016 team. Xerneas, Groudon, Bronzong, Incin, Venu, Thundurus. Really cool stuff. Good old Xerneas. So, like, Zacian's obviously just really good into Xerneas. Incin has safety goggles here, which makes me want to bring it. I guess it could be Defiant Thundurus, and so I have to be a little bit careful about leading into that. Yeah, Amoonguss is tempting here, actually. I don't think I bring Indeedee, but I'm trying to figure out how I order this. It's kind of hard. Incin, Zacian, Palkia, Porygon. Okay. It's a little bit risky leading Incin the way I am doing it here, because if it's Defiant Thundurus, that could pose some problems. They also were really close to timing out there, so if it's Thundurus plus Xerneas as a lead, there is a possibility of them maybe having timed out, so let's keep that in mind. This is an awesome team, though. It's That's funny because Xerneas and Groudon was obviously so dominant for so long. And they do lead Thundurus plus Xerneas, okay. Like, my main question here is, are you Defiant on Thundurus? If so, then this was a bad mistake by me. I kind of made the educated guess that they'd be supportive Thundurus because you have a Groudon and a Venu on your team, and those are already, like, Dynamax options. So, let's see. If it's not Defiant, I mean, we're in really good shape with this lead, I would argue. Perfect. Okay, they're not. That was, like, an educated gamble. Like I said, there is a chance that they timed out here and they just have Incin plus Bronzong in the back. I think turn 1 I'm down to just make the safe play of Fake Out plus Behemoth Blade. I think it's like so obvious Xerneas protects or switches out here. But yeah, like I just want to force it off the field. I don't want it to let it get Geomancy off. Thundurus switches. Oh, I see. They're going to Incin. Oh, no, Bronzong. Okay. Double switch. I think they did time out in team preview. Yeah. Which means they're down to restricted Pokemon, but that still doesn't necessarily mean a guaranteed win for us. We still have to execute correctly. Yeah, good double switch turn 1, but I'm fine playing it safe because it's like, now what, right? I think Bronzong can cause some pretty serious issues for me, though, so I have to be very careful about that. Okay. We should assume it's Iron Defense Body Press. Normally with Bronzong, I assume it has like Hypnosis, Ally Switch, Trick Room, Iron Defense Body Press, like all of those moves until I see otherwise. So I could go for my own double switch here, which is interesting. I'm also interested in the idea of just clicking Parting Shot and Sacred Sword here, because Instinct can only fake out one of my Pokemon. They might not even click Fake Out. They might like go for their own Parting Shot. So I guess a little bit risky to not switch out Zacian here, but I'm down to just get damage off on the board. Palkia is going to be very good into Bronzong. Ooh, they actually switch out. Okay. Back out into Xerneas. That's cool. This is where bringing Porygon is so valuable, though, right? Because it's like my opponent's damage, because they timed out indexes so heavily on Xerneas, that... Oh, actually, I shouldn't count out Bronzong either, because of Iron Defense and Body Press, I suppose. Bronzong can still Hypnosis as well, which is what I'm scared about. So I could go into Palkia here, because then it's a free Geyser into the Bronzong slot, which I'm kind of down for right now. The only thing is if Bronzong actually has Hypnosis, and then they just go for Hypnosis. I assume Trick Room's going up here, but if not, then they're really in trouble. Oh, they didn't even Trick Room. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be really hard for them to get out of this one, I think. So I can just Dynamax Geyser into Bronzong, and I almost want to double up into it, but I'm still down to just Behemoth Blade Xerneas. I mean, like, this is why Xerneas is a nightmare to use in this format, right? Because Zacians are just so common. And I think my opponent's team is really well constructed to deal with Zacian, but unfortunately them timing out means that they don't have Groudon, and that makes it even harder for them. Like, Groudon over Bronzong here would probably have more value for them. Or Thundurus, actually. Oh yeah, Thundurus is easily the most disposable member, in my opinion. I do have to worry about Eerie Impulse and Taunt from it, so we want to keep that in mind. Okay, they switch Incin into that slot, that's fine. Yeah, I guess my only question is Bronzong bulky enough to take a Life Orb Max Geyser from Palkia? Because I assume this would pick up a one-hit KO, but if not, then it's probably better to just double up. But, oh, they actually double switch. Okay. That works for me. Can Thundurus really survive a Life Orb Max Geyser? Maybe. I'm trying to think about, like, bulky Thundurus back in 2013, because back then you would use Dragon Gem plus Draco Meteor, right? And you could EV Thundurus to survive that from Latios. If we get the one-hit KO into Thundurus here, though, I think it's just really doomed for them, because, like, they don't have weather control by not bringing Groudon here, and so I can just Geyser everything, essentially. Okay. This is also, like, a good time to talk about, because, like, timeouts will happen occasionally in VGC, right? Like, obviously you want to play perfectly all the time, but it's very hard to play perfectly consistently in every match that you have. Is that Sash Thundurus, or did it really survive on one? Oh, wow, interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah, this game is actually not over yet, so let's also not get ahead of ourselves and assume we've won when we haven't yet. Here they can fake out into Zacian, Thunder Wave, or Eerie Impulse with the Thundurus. Tell you what, I'm down to Max Guard here, and then switch out into my Incin, because then I can just finish off their Thundurus with the fake out, and then Geyser into the Incin slot next turn. I don't want to risk any Thunder Waves right now from the Thundurus. Like, I think if there's one way my opponent can come back, it's just paralyzing me and not allowing me to get any attacks off. But normally it doesn't feel good to waste a Max Guard like this, but I think it's worth it in this position. Okay, they actually hard switch Incin out into Bronzong. Okay. I actually really think that's smart. Because I can still totally lose to a Xerneas sweep right now, right? So, like, I have to be very careful about that. Especially Dynamax Xerneas. But the thing is, I've got the Eerie Impulse on Porygon as well. So here I am down to just Geyser into Bronzong and fake out into Thundurus. I think I've pinned my opponent. They're doing such a good job conserving the Incineroar though. Like this, they're playing so well for how stacked the deck is against them. Like, and even though I feel like I'm in a good spot, it's actually still very winnable for them in my opinion. They do have Protect on Bronzong. Okay. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be super surprised about that. I could have doubled up onto the Thundurus slot there as well, but I'm still fine with this outcome. Like, Geyser in Rain through Protect still does a ton of damage. Yeah. Great job on my opponent, though. Like, they're playing so well with these switches, so kudos to them. We've also seen the body press from Incin, Protect. I would think Iron Defense, Trick Room would make sense as a moveset here. Okay, so I'm just going to Hydro Pump here. Honestly, I'm down to just Darkest Lariat in this position. I think you have to fake out Palkia here, given the Protect. I also made that play thinking that Bronzong wouldn't have Protect, since it's like, on Bronzong there's so many moves that you'd like to run. Trick Room, Iron Defense, Body Press, Ally Switch, Hypnosis, just to name a couple. Could run Gyro Ball. So let's see. The key thing to note is that my opponent has one stalled out my Dynamax and two still has a Xerneas in the back. Is that max Bronzong? Okay, they maxed Incineroar. I actually don't really think that's going to help them very much here. Yeah. Unless I miss Hydro. Uh-oh. I think it's still fine, honestly, but if the Hydro hits there, I think I just immediately win the game. Special defense drop, not really that bad. Especially because my Incin's actually faster than theirs, so it's like... Yeah, let's see how much Lariat does there. Not the best. Trick Room? Oh, Palkia. You and your misses. Honestly, if my opponent wins this one, like, huge kudos to them. And, you know, like, they're going to need some good fortune to win. But I wouldn't even be too sad about losing to that Hydro miss. Plus, it's still so far from over. Like, my Pokemon are still fully healthy, right? Okay, I'm down here to Parting Shot. I really want to KO Bronzong, because it's just annoying. So, Hydro into Bronzong and just Parting Shot here into, Incin. Maybe it's... I don't have a Body Press from Bronzong KO's Incin here. I guess I shouldn't really be worried about damage output from their Incin, I guess, unless they Body Press, like, double up on my Palkia. I don't think Incin's that important for me right now, either. Oh! That's awesome. I should have, like, talked about Weakness Policy Incin as an option. You know, it's funny because I was like, who do they even Dynamax in this game? But the answer is Incineroar. I think we're still fine, honestly. But Trick Room going up just makes this more difficult, right? Because it's like, also, this is wild. It's been like 12 minutes of the game, and like, you know, maybe I've taken 20% of my team's overall damage. But +1 Darkness, I don't think KOs Palkia here. Holy cow, it does? Oh, wow. Okay. I honestly did not think Incin would get the knockout there. So it's Body Press, Protect, Trick Room. I would think Iron Defense still is the last one. Okay. Great job on my opponent, honestly. I still feel fine because like Zacian is such a good matchup against Xerneas, but they have made this quite the game, given the fact that they timed out. Like, they played so well. So you love to see that from them. I mean, now I'm nervous about a Body Press just KOing Incineroar, right? Like, that was what I was nervous about previously. Their instant being faster actually makes this so weird. It's the last round of Dynamax on their end. Okay, you shouldn't KO either of my Pokemon here. I'm actually going to Fake Out and Foul Play into Bronzong. Okay. Is that a Xerneas switch in? Wow. Nicely done. Okay, they max guard though, that's fine. Yeah, this is honestly fine. Like, I was just worried about fainting to like a crit Body Press, because I don't know how much it does onto Incin from the range that I'm at the moment. I mean, the crazy thing here is they will be able to like angle for a Geomancy now. But I have Eerie Impulse, so I can just shut you down anyway. So like here, I'm down to just Flare Blitz into the Incineroar slot, and then just Eerie Impulse into Xerneas. Like, yeah, I mean, this game just got really tough because they actually got Trick Room up, and they've switched so well in this game. But the thing is, I feel like I have such a matchup advantage that I can play safely and get away with it for now. Okay, so here's Blitz. Bye-bye Bronzong. Good, that's out of the way now. We finally take our first KO 14 minutes into the game. It's wild to think about. Yeah, with Eerie Impulse, like Xerneas does, I don't really care about you being faster or having special defense boost because I'm mainly physical damage. Actually, I'm pretty much all entirely physical damage right now. So the only thing you get out of this is really the speed boosts, which allows you to outspeed my Zacian at least. That was really cool, though. That was really cool. Like the Dynamax Instant, I didn't think about self-activation Body Press. Yeah. This is what I mean, right? Even if your opponent's timed down, you know all of the Pokemon, like, I think my opponent played so well here, given the circumstances. This game is not over by any means yet, either. Especially with Thundurus being in the back with, like, potential T-Wave shenanigans. Okay. The awkward thing is, yeah, there's still a turn of Trick Room here. So, like, you can only fake out one of my Pokemon. I'm down a Parting Shot into Xern. And Foul Play into Incineroar. I think with Eerie Impulse I should be good here because late game Zacian should just clean up house. But Timer is actually something I have to worry about here as well. I could theoretically lose to that. Okay, so Xern protects, that's fine. They fake out into Porygon. Okay. That's fine by me. Okay, Trick Room expires. Now what? You just go for a Dazzling or a Moonblast. So I'm going to Parting Shot again into Xerneas and Foul Play again into Incineroar. Focus Sash Thundurus, like, they had a lot of things that made this a lot harder, right? Like, Sash on Thundurus allowing it to actually switch out and back in. Protect on Bronzong, allowing them to stall out my max moves a little bit better. The combination of that made things kind of awkward here. I'm clicking Foul Play on Porygon here, by the way, because I don't want to get taunted by the Incineroar. I mean, I guess the odds of it having taunt on a weakness policy set are so unlikely. Like, right now I'm just waiting to get Zacian in safely, right? So, okay, they're going to Gleam. I don't think this KOs either. Yep. Darkest Lariat. Okay, cool. Perfect. Into Incin. That's actually not going to knock me out. And so that should win me the game. Let's see if Foul Play gets the knockout onto their Incineroar. Oh my gosh, that's 1 HP. That's fine though. Because now Zacian comes out. Honestly, yeah, if my opponent had Groudon over Thundurus in this game, I'd actually like give them the edge because, I mean, they played so well. But the thing is, I knew I could always make safe plays in this game with literally no downside at all, right? Like, I don't think I made any advanced predictions, but I don't have to. It just drags on the game for a little bit longer, but I just have such a matchup advantage here. So, yeah. Now, I'm just going to Sacred Sword the Instant slot and then recover. Because it's like the only way Xerneas ever wins here is if they get tons of crits. But they do have Protect, man. There's so many random Protects here. Makes sense on a policy set, though. Cool. I don't even think a crit... Yeah, like that was a crit, right? I was going to say, I don't even think a crit like Moonblast KO Zacian next turn. So, you know, we're just playing this as safely as possible. Okay. So now let us go for Sacred Sword and another Eerie Impulse. And then like I can win the game by setting up Trick Room on the Porygon, switching out Zacian into Incin, and then Behemoth Blade will just KO Xerneas under Trick Room. Uh-oh. 105 down to 72. Okay, yeah. Doesn't KO us. It just makes me a little bit nervous now because a crit Moonblast now can KO Zacian, but to their credit, they're playing towards their outs. Okay. I mean, Eerie Impulse is just so good here, but this is quite the game. Okay, they end up forfeiting. I think they at that point you might as well, I don't know. Like you could still win, I think, but I get it. That was a very, very hard fought game though. And props to my opponent because the deck was obviously so stacked against them with them timing out, but this team is really fun. And yeah, we went up against some more unorthodox restricted combos today with Dialga and Zacian and then the Xerneas. And I wish, you know, they had Groudon here instead of Thundurus. It would have been exciting to see how that played out because truthfully, their play was fantastic. And then they had so many surprises between like Protect on Bronzong, Protect on Incin, Weakness Policy on Incin, Focus Sash on Thundurus as well. So really, really cool team. And so kudos to them. Yeah, like I think if they had Groudon over Thundurus here based off how they played, they would have probably beaten me here. So yeah. Anyway, though, that's going to be it for this one. So thanks so much, as always, for watching. Thank you to Alex once again for the team. Details down in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right. Peace.